Over the past few weeks, I've been having a back and forth with a man called Paul Russell. We first met Paul when he made the claim that light has no speed and is in fact absolute. Then he really piqued my interest when he started looking at flat Earth. In all that time, I made a few responses to Paul and he made a few responses back to me. And guess what? He's done it again. He really does love to have the final say, doesn't he? Hello all and welcome along to another video with me, Simon Dan. Thanks very much for joining me. Right then, on with today's video, which is a response from would-be flat earther Paul Russell. He has once again taken exception to my video, so decided to address me in the title of his. These are always so good. Here we go.
Flat or round? First of all, okay, let's get this straight. I've always thought it was round. I had no reason to think it was flat. But like I said, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, things I've heard has made me pull the horses in. Doubt. It's not about being influenced by stuff online. Paul has seen stuff online. I've spoken to people, intelligent people, but you say, well, they can't have been intelligent, right? They are intelligent. They're definitely intelligent.
Okay, fair enough. Let me rephrase what I said. If these people think the Earth is flat, they may still have some intelligence regarding some topics. They may be great with numbers, for example, but when it comes to science, logic and reason, there is no intelligence here, trust me.
There is enough doubt. See, this is the thing. I am objective enough to know that there are questions to be asked. But I stop right there. You said that you have done your own study on it with 1,000 people or something, and you dropped a link. I will check it out. I did not know that. I put my hand up. I did not know that. I did not go through every single one of your programs, your posts, your tin foil hat Tuesdays. I didn't know, so I'll check that out. And I didn't know that you travelled to quite a few places. So
you say you're objective enough to know that questions exist. That's step one. Here is step two though. When answers are presented to you, you check them. You said you didn't know about the Eratosthenes experiment. You didn't know that I'd travelled quite a bit. You didn't know I'd done independent measurements. So you've assumed many things about me and then came to a conclusion. That's not being very objective, is it?
But not as many planes. I haven't been on as many planes as you've had hot dinners. I take that back as well. It was an exaggeration, but it's a saying, isn't it? A Brit saying. That's why I said it.
It is, and I did acknowledge that, and I sort of said that in jest.
Now, what else do we have? The people were probably not intelligent. I will check the link. Absolute. Still has speed. When you say, Paul, you can't say it's absolute, and then in the next sentence say, well, it does have speed, but it's incomprehensible. Dan, that is just being extremely picky.
I disagree. If you think that light is absolute, then it's absolute. Having a speed is not absolute. The speed of light is very fast. But space is extremely big, which is why it takes time to travel.
There is obviously going to be a delay between me pressing this button and the light leaving here. There we go. Getting there, obviously. But you wouldn't be able to time it. Nobody can time it. Nobody can measure to see how fast it goes because it is absolute.
We measure the speed of light constantly, Paul. In labs, in fibre optics, in GPS systems, in particle accelerators. It's not mysterious. It's almost 300,000 metres per second in a vacuum. That number's not a guess. It's been measured repeatedly for over a century. You simply cannot say that nobody's measured it.
Now, this is where common sense comes in. And Dan, at the end, you did say common sense. No. Not about common sense, about centuries and centuries of what you think are studies. Now, I'm saying there are lots of porky pies. Are you naive enough to believe that Galileo, when was it, in the 1600s, told one of his co-workers to climb up a hilltop 3 kilometers away from a hilltop that he was climbing in the middle of the night with no form of communication, no power, no accurate timekeeping devices, but you believe that it was a thing, that they did it.
You're talking about Galileo's light experiment here. 2 observers, 2 lanterns on hilltops a few kilometres apart. They weren't trying to measure the exact speed of light here. They were testing whether light had a noticeable delay. Galileo didn't claim to have measured the speed of light precisely. He concluded it was too fast to measure with the tools he had. Now that's honest science. He tested, he found limits, and he reported those limits. That's not a porky pie, is it? For those of you who don't live in England, that's lie. Calling centuries of measurements porky pies doesn't make them not true. It just dismisses them without examining them.
You believe that Roma checked Io out coming from behind Jupiter, yada yada yada, with no accurate timekeeping devices. Why don't you explain how they did that?
Sure, you're talking about Ole Roma here in 1676. He was timing the eclipses of Io, one of Jupiter's moons. Now Io goes behind Jupiter on a regular schedule, just like clockwork. Now you say they had no accurate clocks, but they absolutely did have mechanical pendulum clocks in the 1600s. Now pendulum clocks were accurate to within seconds in a day. Now that's more than enough when you're tracking events over months. They weren't measuring nanoseconds here, they were measuring minutes.
Stellar Aberration, Bradley, 1728. What a load of rubbish. Have you read it? Can you digest information, right? Then we have, mirrors, people spinning mirrors. What's that? Wheatstone, Arago, spinning mirrors to work out the speed of light. What an insult to people's intelligence, Simon Dan. It cannot be done. It cannot be done.
This is classic personal incredulity. He cannot believe it can be done, so he dismisses it. Here's the principle of that experiment. You send a beam of light to a distant mirror and it reflects back. If the mirror you use to send it is spinning very fast, it will rotate slightly during the time the light is travelling. That tiny rotation shifts where the returning beam lands. You measure the shift, you get the time taken, so then of course you can figure out the distance. Speed equals distance over time. That's it. Not really too hard to understand, Paul.
You keep saying centuries and centuries of studies that have been done, and I'm saying it's horseradish, starting from Galileo. Why would Einstein call photons in 1905 knowing that solar eclipses play out the way they do? And this is the one that I am focused on more than the flat earth. The flat earth is something that just came up because when I explain the solar eclipse with absolute light, because it has to be absolute light, Dan. It cannot play out any other way, because when you're here on the sweet spot on planet Earth and you have the moon directly in front of the sun and you can see the sun around the moon, I'm not sure what to call it to think people are somehow inserting an 8-minute and 20-second delay in there. They cannot be.
Oh, not this again. When you are seeing a solar eclipse, you are seeing the sun as it was 8 minutes ago, the moon as it was about 1.3 seconds ago, and that is not a contradiction, by the way. That's because of course they're at different distances. Everything you see is technically in the past. Even my face on your screen is milliseconds old. That doesn't break reality, it's just how light works. I think absolute, by the way, is the wrong word you're looking for here. You're talking about light being instantaneous, and it just isn't. It's been studied to death, Paul. And dismissing that with just a hand wave is not going to cut it. I'm not going to sit here and talk through with you again the eclipse problem that you've done before, because we've looked at that in previous videos several times. So I think that's a good time to wrap up this video and say we are all done and dusted for another one. Please do let me know in the comments below what you thought of Paul's response here. Thank you so much for watching as ever. If you enjoyed it, please do consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the thumbs up button too. I've been Simon Dan, have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow where we look at why debunking flat earth really does matter. See you then.